not only is he making history as just a great rookie, Mike, he might be, and test me on this, he might be the only Ohio State quarterback I can think of that has done a damn thing in the NFL.
Well, I'm pretty sure Kirk Herbstreit has called some games in the NFL.
All right, Mike, we're back this week. We got divisional matchups. You know, I got you last week. We're going to call that the Mendoza line for just picking. So let's see if you can at least get more than 2 right this week. We got 4 matchups in the divisional round. NFC, AFC, both kind of in the semifinals, I guess you could say, Mike. The 1 seeds are finally playing. A lot to get started. I'm going to take it over to you for any AFC previews you want to start us off with.
Yeah, let's go into it. And for you at home, if you remember elementary school doing long division, well, I got your long division right here, the long divisional round. We're about to go right into it here. Baltimore hosting the Houston Texans. And Dirk, the question on everyone's mind is, can CJ Stroud continue his magic thus far into this entire season? But first, like in the first round, he was unflappable.
Well, I'll tell you, Mike, as a Browns fan, the only thing I have to look forward to anymore is to see the Ravens, formerly known as the Browns, lose. And I think CJ Stroud is going to make me CJ proud this week. I'm going to go ahead and take the Texans in this one. I really just don't like Lamar in the postseason. We kind of talked about this last week, but Lamar in his postseason record has only won 1 postseason game. He's below 500 in his record. He's only had 3 touchdown passes thrown with 5 interceptions. I don't love him in this matchup. Now, they've looked good all season. They're probably looking the best in the AFC for sure, maybe in the NFL in general. It's going to take that defense to really show up, I think, and throw a rookie quarterback off. But, Mike, how good is CJ Stroud? I mean, not looking like a rookie whatsoever. At 22 years of age, youngest quarterback right now, do you think that the Baltimore defense will figure him out in this game?
Yes, I do. It's not a knock on CJ Stroud. I think CJ Stroud appears to be, he's like the bug in Men in Black that has descended upon the planet, and he's going to eat the galaxy, Dirk. It's going to happen, but it's not going to happen this week. Baltimore's defense is too good. Lamar Jackson is not Joe Flacco. Baltimore is going to roll in this one in Baltimore. You're going to hear that RAVENS Ravens chant many times. I'm going Baltimore by, let's call it 31-14, a pretty significant victory for the Ravens. I mean, the Texans, they bold pick. If it happens, it throws a huge wrench in the postseason, and you will look like a genius. It would not be the first time. You did call the Packers last week, so we'll see. I do not see Baltimore going down. I think they've been a better team all year than Dallas.
You know, honestly, Mike, I think you're probably right if I was actually going to pick based off of, like, logic. But this time, you know, as a biased Browns fan, I'm just going to go ahead and take the Texans. But I do think C.J. Stroud has a very, very good chance to make some history. And not only is he making history as just a great rookie, Mike, he might be, and test me on this, he might be the only Ohio State quarterback I can think of that has done a damn thing in the NFL.
Well, I'm pretty sure Kirk Herbstreit has called some games in the NFL. But yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, Ohio State's lineage of quarterbacks is not great. I mean, you did not see Craig Krenzel taking a team through the NFL playoffs. Justin Fields, the jury is still out, but I'm going to have to say that jury is ruling. He might be on the fence on Justin Fields.
And I mean, even people like Terrell Pryor. Remember him, who was coming out as like a hot commodity? He turned into a wide receiver. People didn't even want to put him in as a quarterback. That's how bad Ohio State quarterbacks traditionally are.
It's not been great. Now, speaking of quarterbacks, in the next matchup, we have 2, and it's a whole video on its own, so we're not going to go into the rivalry that is budding, but it is the Chiefs going out to Buffalo to play the Bills. And Dirk, this is a rematch of one of the greatest playoff games in NFL history 2 years ago. It also is, in many ways, it might be Buffalo's last stand. I mean, the Bills have to win this game They truly have to. I mean, it was good for them to get out of the wild card round and beat Pittsburgh, but this is it. I mean, if Kansas City beats them 3 times in the playoffs, the window might be shutting for Buffalo. All of the urgency, all of the stakes on the line. What do you see in this one, Dirk?
Well, I'm going to pause here and say, when we made that video weeks back talking about how this is, Buffalo's last season, if you remember, I was reluctant to say that Buffalo was not a good team, and I was holding on to that, and I think that me holding on when everybody else was doubting is going to be proving true. I'm taking Buffalo in this one, and not only is it because they're at home at Orchard Park, where I think they have a tremendous home field advantage, traveling to Buffalo with all the weather concerns and whether or not the governor's going to step in and say, hey, in the interest of public health, we're going to move this to the next day. It's just a hard place to go and have to play. It's similar to almost going to Laradice and having to play. I'm just going to say that I don't think that Kansas City's going to travel well here. If it is that cold, Kadarius Toney has no chance of catching one. Maybe the only thing he's catching is a cold out there. And also, I just don't see the Kansas City Chiefs as really being that competitive of a game. They played the Dolphins, who, they won handily in that game, and it was just kind of a mess of a game, Mike. But really, can you really come out of that and say they dominated that? It just looked bad at all sides. The latter half of the season, the Chiefs were imploding. You got to wonder if this is Andy Reid's last season. There's also a lot of just drama. It feels like, Patrick Mahomes has moved to just being not a winner anymore and more concerned about what calls aren't being called by the refs. And I feel like every single time we see a cut shot of Patrick Mahomes anymore, it is not him with swagger. It's him crying about a call or about how he got hit or about how there wasn't a call. Do you know what I'm saying? I just don't see this as a winning team. It's not a championship team. I see Buffalo. This is their last chance, like you were saying, unless there's a lot of restructuring of contracts. They're going to win this one, and I think they're going to win this one pretty handily. I see this taking off. They're going off of a quick start like they have in their last 2 games. They'll go up by at least 14 and carry that all the way. And also, Mike, just think about this. James Cook is like a top 5 rusher in the NFL for yards. I'm almost thinking in the regular season, I'm pretty sure he's top 5 in yards overall. And that's quiet because no one hears about it. Everybody's been talking about how poor their ground game has been. But in the last few weeks, they've been figuring it out. And I really think that they're going to dominate this game.
It's very possible, Dirk. They do have a new element. The run game is playing much better than in seasons past, right? Like you said, Cook has been a weapon for them. When we talk about Buffalo's last window, the challenge is they're over 40 million, almost 50 million over the cap for next year. So for this particular core of players, this is it. And I actually, Dirk, I think this is going to be a tighter game than you do. I see Kansas City, while they slumped throughout the second half of the regular season, that defense actually has played a pretty solid overall, stretch of football and looked really good. Now, granted, going up to Buffalo is different than playing in Arrowhead, and I think that's the difference in this one. I have a low-scoring game that's a bit of a surprise, but I have Buffalo hanging on 20-17. The Bills advance one more week into the AFC Championship. But I think going to your statement on Mahomes, one thing to consider is why does he not look like Patrick Mahomes of years past? Because the Chiefs are getting into cap trouble. And Buffalo is going to start to get into cap trouble too next year. So this is their chance. They got to do it now.
All right, Mike, in the other side for the NFC, you have your Green Bay Packers, the one that I called, not your Cowboys, the Green Bay Packers that have made it to the divisional round, taking on who I think is the most complete team in the NFL right now, in the 49ers. This will be played your Saturday late game, 6:15 Mountain Time. In San Francisco, you have Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, versus Jordan Love, who sat behind Aaron Rodgers and really couldn't be anything more different than Aaron Rodgers really is. Calm, cool, collected. Not only did they have a good game plan, but if you're looking at that Cowboys team last week, Mike, just in a quick preview, that looked pretty inevitable when you're looking at it at the end. But we can talk about that in a later segment. In this preview, Mike, Do you have Mr. Irrelevant over the love of Green Bay, or who do you have in this game?
Yeah, this one for me is an easy take, Dirk. It is San Francisco rolling big. The 49ers, simply put, are not the Cowboys. We've seen them show up in most of the big games this year. Now, they did lay a dud against the Ravens in the late season, but we've seen many Super Bowl teams that have won championships do that in December, have a bad outing, and that's what they had against Baltimore. Brock Purdy might be a coin toss. Brock Purdy, you don't know entirely whether or not the really good Brock Purdy shows up or whether or not, he turns it over a number of times. But this team is just too stacked. And I don't know that there needs to be a whole lot of analysis on this, man. Ayuk, Kittle, McCaffrey, and Debo. It's just too much for the Packers. No chance for Green Bay.
Yeah, Mike, I'm on you. I'm with you on this one. As much as I'd like to see Green Bay do something, I think they've already done something phenomenal. They've taken a team that really didn't look like it had playoff chances to making the playoffs, and then surprising. They have already surpassed all expectations on this season. I think they're also vindicated with the Aaron Rodgers moves. This season alone, the first season with Jordan Love has vindicated all the doubters of that move. And they're looking brilliant. So really, what do they have to play for besides just, they have nothing to lose, which gives plenty of motivation, but it is not the same when you really have the high expectations and the pressure to deliver. Like you're saying, this is an easy analysis. I think the 49ers are hands down going to win this one. Unfortunately, like last week, this might not be the closest of games. There is definitely a disparity in the talent level between these two teams. Green Bay is so young. They're going to develop into something special in the future, but Brandon Ayuk, that's a guy I'm going to stop for 2 seconds to say, this guy statistically is head and shoulders above many others in the NFL, yards-wise, receptions-wise, and he does not get enough love at all in the grand scheme of things, right? When you talk about this, it's CMC, it's Brock Purdy, and even Deebo Samuel probably overshadows Ayuk in some ways, but I just think that team is so well put together. You got to give an honorary ring over to Washington as well and the ownership over there for that trade, but 49ers, they're going to take this one and it's going to roll. We're now going over to the Sunday game, Mike, and this one has already a little bit of, jawing back and forth with the Detroit Lions in that locker room, already kind of calling out Baker Mayfield in the pre-antics this week. This is the Sunday game for the NFC matchup. This one's Tampa Bay going up to Detroit. I also saw there was a reporter today asking whether or not, Tampa Bay's preparing for cold frigid temperatures and playing outside, which who knows where that, and Todd Bowles had looked confused about what are you saying? We play indoors. It's Ford Field, but it's indoors. In this matchup, Baker Mayfield already surpassing expectations, and I'm not going to say he really had a whole lot to do with that win. Tampa Bay's defense showing up strong this past week and really surprising in some ways a banged up and hurt Philadelphia team. You have Jared Goff on the other side really having an emotional win there. I'm going to take Dan Campbell and the Lions in this matchup. I just think, Mike, that there is too much emotion going on and way too much momentum in Detroit that will propel them past this team, even if Tampa Bay's defense shows up. I think Baker Mayfield is going to return to his Cleveland form and really underwhelm in this one. And it will be a sad goodbye for Mike Evans, who likely won't be with Tampa Bay next year. But Mike, who do you have?
As much as I want, it would be funny to see Tampa Bay win this game, because it would probably, if you think about it, set the 49ers up with the easiest path to a Super Bowl ever. If the two games happen to be the 7-seed Green Bay Packers followed by the Baker Mayfield Buccaneers, I cannot fathom an easier Super Bowl path than that for a juggernaut team. But it's not going to happen. The Lions are a better team. They have a better, more aggressive defense. Hutchinson has played, super aggressive. I'm with you. I see Mayfield turning it over a couple of times, and Detroit just has too many weapons again on that offense. It may be, kind of a close game for a while, a little bit low scoring, and then I see the Lions breaking it open in the second half. Dirk, can the city of Detroit figure out what to do with itself if they become winners? What are they going to do if they get to the NFC Championship game? Wow, could be wild.
Yeah, it could be wild, and Jared Goff's already done what Matt Stafford never could in Detroit. So, there's a lot of hope in that franchise, and I just love what they've built up there. Real question, though, Mike, is what does this say about Tom Brady if Baker Mayfield's able to take this team deep into the NFC playoffs?
Absolutely nothing about Tom Brady. Brady is happily retired on some sort of a boat, getting drunk right now. He doesn't care. No, Brady has proved himself enough. Baker Mayfield is probably not going to be the centerpiece to taking the Bucs to the Super Bowl. It's just not going to happen. We will say this much. Baker, it's been a good run, but welcome to Detroit.